I want to tell you a story. This is a true story. Complications with her pregnancy forced Diana Blessing to undergo an emergency cesarean surgery to deliver her 24-week-old baby, Dana Lou. Dana was born at 12 inches long, weighing only 1 pound, 9 ounces, and the parents already knew that she was perilously premature. But still, when they heard the doctors, it was like their words just dropped like bombs. The doctor said, I don't think she's going to make it, as kindly as he could. There's only a 10% chance that she'll live through the night. And even then, if by some slim chance that she makes it, her future could be a very cruel one. Numb with disbelief, David and Diana Blessing listened as the doctor described the devastating problems that Dana would likely face if she did survive. She would never walk. She would never talk. She would probably be blind, and she would certainly be prone to other catastrophic conditions, anywhere from cerebral palsy to severe developmental disabilities, and on and on. No was all that Diana could say. She and her husband David and their 5-year-old son Dustin had dreamed of the day when they would have a daughter to complete their family of 4. And now, within a matter of hours, that dream was slipping away. But as those first days passed, a new agony set in for David and Diana, because Dana Lou's underdeveloped nervous system was essentially raw. And the slightest touch only intensified her discomfort. And so they couldn't even touch her. They couldn't cradle their tiny baby girl against their chest to show them the strength of their love. All they could do as Dana Lou struggled alone beneath the ultraviolet light and that tangle of tubes and wires was to pray that Jesus would stay close and hold their precious little girl. At last, when Dana turned 2 months old, her parents were able to hold her in their arms for the first time. And 2 months later, although the doctors continued to gently and grimly warn that her chances of surviving, much less having any kind of a normal life, were next to zero, Dana went home from the hospital. 5 years later, when Dana was a petite but feisty young girl with an unquenchable zest for life and showing no signs whatsoever of any mental or physical impairment, she was everything that a little girl could be. And one blistering hot afternoon in the summer near her home in Irving, Texas, Dana was sitting on her mother's lap in the bleachers of a local ballpark where her brother Dustin's baseball team was practicing. And as always, Dana was chattering nonstop with her mother and several other adults who were sitting nearby when suddenly she just fell silent. And hugging her little arms across her chest, Dana asked, "Do you smell that?" Smelling the air and detecting the approach of a thunderstorm, her mother replied, "Yes. It smells like rain." Dana closed her eyes again and said, "Do you smell that?" And once again, her mother replied, "Yes, I think we're all about to get wet. It smells like rain." And Dana shook her head, and she patted her shoulders and her hands, and she loudly announced, "No, it smells like God. It smells just like God when you lay your hand and your head and your body on his chest." And tears blurred Diana's eyes as Dana happily hopped down to play with the other children. And as the rains came, her daughter's words confirmed what Diana and all the members of the Blessing family really had suspected all along. That during those long days and nights of the first 2 months of her life, when her nerves were too sensitive for them to touch her, Jesus was touching her and holding her to his chest, and she remembers that. It's a true story. My friends, our God of compassion holds us when we are at our most vulnerable and carries us, as Madeline was reading in that story from the Exodus. God carries us on eagle's wings. That's what God said. He said, I carried you on eagle's wings when I brought you out of that oppression that you were facing. God brings people through our crises. Sometimes into new life, sometimes into new places, sometimes helping us learn to thrive right where we are. And right now, not only we, but our state, our nation, our world are being, in some sense, reborn. We are awakening. We are awakening to a new hope of healing. Healing that Jesus brought into this world. The healing that he gave you to share, you who are his disciples, to carry out. Healing as we live in a pandemic, caring for each other. Healing with our honesty, our listening, to reconcile and justly invest in relationships with people. People of all different races, all different traditions. Healing for a world where a fractured creation is nurtured again and restored so that all people are fed. Where we learn, we're awakening, I think, to learn that what we thought was a problem that would not survive if we just denied it or ignored it is actually a gift to us. It can be a gift that can bring God's people and all of God's creation together to find better ways to survive, better ways to thrive, because we truly all are in God's hands, close to God's heart. We're recognizing the suffering of all humanity and creation more deeply. We're more aware of what we've taken for granted and of the times that we look the other way. We're seeing that when one of us suffers, all of us suffer. When one of our staff got COVID, it affected all of us here. When one black man died in an unjust way, it affected all of Minnesota and truly all the world. When storms get more severe and the weather gets more unpredictable, it affects not only our farmers, but all of us. Jesus told us that in this world we'll have troubles, we'll have suffering, but we take heart in this. Jesus is with us to overcome the troubles in this world. We will have suffering, we will. But suffering produces that perseverance, that endurance. I see that in you. I do. As we endure this together, we can make choices that define our character. Character that is becoming more humble, more patient, more sensitive to the pain of others. A character that is open to wondering how we go through this, how we make a difference, to live our mission. And this is what produces hope. This is what produces hope. Hope that helps us smell in the rains and the storms that come the real presence of God in the Spirit, who was poured into us long ago, and we still remember. All of us, our leaders today, and each and every one of you are a treasured part of God's priestly kingdom. You are. The Holy Spirit gifted you. And just as Jesus called his disciples by name and sent them out, he calls and he sends each of you today to, number one, to share the good news of Jesus' grace, that forgiving grace. We need it, other people need it. And that love of God. And to share it in such a way that you know how to say it. You can say it in your words from the experience you have. So number one, share that good news. Number two, to name and to drive out the evils that are in our midst, the injustices, the divisions. Let us commit to being a no injustice zone here, and commit to not let anyone divide us, because we need each other. And number three, to be part of the healing of the spirit of people who are lost, people who are hurting. Part of the healing of the racial and other divisions, part of the healing of the environment, part of the healing of an economy and a health system where everyone can benefit, where no one is lost, where everyone, every person can come home and be loved. We are God's people. We know that God's love endures forever, from this generation and for the generations to come. From our littlest newborn to the oldest among us. We who dwell sheltering in the Lord abide in him for life. The snares will not capture us because we are going to protect each other. You need not fear terror at night, because God will raise you up on eagle's wings and carry you and hold you. Amen.